Hi, my name is Dan, and this video is one in a series I'm doing on particle effects in the Unreal Engine using the Niagara plugin system. And in this one, I'm going to show you how to use external blueprints to have some kind of control inside the Niagara system. It's going to be quite short, actually, because it's pretty easy. So the setup I've got is a third-person template map. I've got a Niagara system that I created, not for the last video, but for the one before, which has got a sprite effect being created in the torus, and it's just kind of splashing out every few seconds. I said the torus is not, it's actually in a box. So what we're going to do, I'm kind of preempting myself. I'm going to make a few small changes to this just to make it something more interesting or for the particular thing I want to change. So we're going to drop off that box location, and we're going to stick in a torus location instead. Location, la 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 la, location, torus location. I'm just going to increase that radius to 200. There we go. And I'm going to change the emitter spawn from a burst to a constant. So I'm just going to drop that off, and we're going to have spawning. I'm going to use a spawn rate, and initially I'm going to set that to 1,000, which is quite intense. We'll have a quick look at that in the worlds. I'm just going to drop that down. So that value is going to change that 1,000. Actually, quite a few of those particles are disappearing underground. Just pull that above. So what the effect that I'm going to try and create is a kind of magic spot on the ground, and this is going to start having these particles created as the player approaches this magic spot, and as they get nearer towards the magic spot, you're going to get more and more of the particles created. And from about 10 meters away, which is just quite a convenient number, there'll be no particles going on at all. So back into the Niagara system, what we're going to do is we're going to change this so the spawn rate is being set externally. The way to do this is to create a user exposed variable, which are up here on the left hand side. I'm just going to click plus on that, and I'm going to have a floating point number, which if we check against the highlight over it is a type float, so that should plug in. I'm going to call it my spawn rate, and then I'm going to apply that over there simply by dragging and dropping it into the right place. Now that's going to stop everything happening because we've gone down to 0 effectively. That should be everything that I need to do in the Niagara system, and we just need to get access to that and use it over here. So I'm going to open up. I'm going to use do it in the character. Open up third-person blueprints, third-person character, and I'm going to add a variable in here, which is going to be a Niagara actor. My Niagara system. So when you drag the Niagara system into the world, it becomes a Niagara actor. I'll show you that by that system again, if it's kind of hiding in between. NS Mine is a Niagara actor. In the same way that if you put a static mesh into a world, it becomes a static mesh actor. Go back into that editing. So I want to change that type to be a Niagara actor object reference. Compile that. Now I can't set that as a default value because it's an actor instance. What I need to do is I need to go and find the character in the world outliner. So this is the instance of the character rather than the class of the character. And in there, I should be able to change it. Have we exposed it? That's the thing I haven't done. So I haven't exposed that variable to make it settable. Right. My NS. There's only one of those in the world. That's connected it. Okay. So let's go back in. We want to be in the event graph. I'm just going to add an event tick. There's a whole lot of stuff in there already. And I'm going to make this depend on the distance between the character and that magic spot on the ground, which is where the center of the Niagara system is. So let's get a reference to south first and get location, get location, and we're also going to get that thing and get location. And to find the distance between those two is the vector minus vector. So vector minus vector. And we want the length of that. And it just so happens that our numbers are going to work out because 10 meters away happens to be 1,000 centimeters. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the number 1,000 and subtract from it the distance away from that center that the play character is. So I'm just going to do float minus float, but I'm going to swap those over and drop that off and put 1,000 in there. So what that does is it gives us 1,000 when the length is 0. When the length is 10 meters, it'll be 0, and then further out it'll be a negative number which will be ignored, which is quite useful. And so what we want to do is we want to set that parameter that we've exposed. Set blackboard, not blackboard, Niagara variable float. Yeah. And because this has been turned into an actor, which is what it needs to be for us to be able to have this location for it, then of course it automatically finds the Niagara components of that actor for us to be able to control. Link that up there and stick that in there. And the variable name, we're just going to check that. I call that. It's called new float. It's not changed. My spawn rate. Enter. Good job I checked. And we need exactly the same. So if we've done everything correctly, then that blackboard control would, let's see what happens as we click play. Nothing. Why is that? So I'm back, and I think I know what was going on, why it wasn't working. If you remember a few seconds ago, I found that I tried to change the name of this to my spawn rate, and it hadn't actually changed. And I think that's, I'll just change and see what happens. I think if you click off, I just put a 1 on the end there. It doesn't change if you click off. You have to press enter to change the name. But I think that also means that what happened was in that spawn initialized particle, that was the spawn rate in here. Although it seems to update it here, you still need to drag it across. Now I need to change that back to spawn rate. If I mess this up now and it still doesn't work now, I'll be somewhat across. But I found when I dragged it back across, well, I changed it to 0 and then changed it back again. So I think that's what I did to make it work. Let's just see if it's actually working. So there the emitters spawning, and if I walk away from it, they stop, and as I get closer, which has got the question mark in the middle, which is just kind of coincidental. You can stand in the middle, and we've got a whole plethora of stuff happening, and as we go further away, it doesn't. So that's just one example, but it shows you the principles of how to get some blueprint control in there, and just a very quick recap on how I did that. So in the Niagara system, I created a user exposed variable and then dragged that across to where I wanted to use it. And then in the blueprint that I wanted, I've used the set Niagara variable. I needed to get hold of that Niagara system somehow, so some reference to it. You can also do this if you include a Niagara component as part of a blueprint. Uh, you can get control of it that way as well. So that's it from me for now.